Welcome in to another episode of the My Two Bits Gators Football Podcast. I am one of your hosts, Ben, joined as always by your other host, Mr. Randy. Randy, we play that Florida fight song at the beginning of every one of these. I think we may need to change it for this one to like the ER song or General Hospital or Grey's Anatomy or something, because I think everybody's on the injury table, buddy. How you feeling tonight?
I'm feeling the injury table. The back's a little sore. The knees are sore. No. I can't complain, man. It was a great environment being up there at the biggest cocktail party, and if that's what it's still known for, and it's
Formerly
a
known
shame we
as,
couldn't.
formerly known as. It's funny because they said not to refer to it as that anymore, but everybody still
Oh, really?
refers to it as formerly known as.
Is that so? So what is it referred to as now?
Formerly the world's largest outdoor cocktail party, which is
Oh, okay.
hilarious. Which is hilarious.
Interesting. Very interesting. But no, man, happy to go through some therapy with you tonight and break it down,
Yeah,
and we will
therapy
talk
indeed.
about it. So looking forward to that.
No, absolutely, absolutely. So, as always, we'll start off here with our intro. A little tweak to the intro tonight. We talked a little about this, and something that we really value here and try our absolute best to be as accurate as possible. So we've added a little accuracy disclaimer in here as part of our mission, and then we're calling it our mission accuracy disclaimer, if I can say it. Then our vision and our agenda. So we kind of threw that in. So we'll go through that. And then, of course, as always, before walking through our agenda, we will do our Oh My section, talking about the exciting plays, go through the Chomp segment for the offense, the Gator Bait segment of the defense, talk about visor throws and what we did not like from this week's game, hatchlings, talk about recruiting a little bit, and then Pride of the Sunshine to, of course, discuss the culture that we saw, which was something very positive this week. That's something we can definitely have a positive from. We will then go through the officiating and move back USOC, and then wrap things up, kind of talk about the state of the team and where we go from here, and then play a little keep it or pitch it for Texas this week. And then, of course, review the results of the Sims as well. And I'll discuss that when we get there, what I was having to work with and do based on where we stand with all those injuries. So with that, get things started off here with our mission to provide accurate or factual analysis of all things Florida Gator football. Our accuracy disclaimer is that our information will be accurate to the best of our possible ability. We will cite our sources whenever we use them, and all statistical data comes from either ESPN or stats.ncaa.org, and recruiting data comes from on3.com when we actually cite like a ranking, star rating, or like overall class rating. That's our source for that. Any other stats that we might pull, we will cite the source if it is from something outside of that, but that is our baseline data, is where we pull from one of those two sites in most cases. So our vision, of course, is to have unfiltered conversation around the product on the field, as well as recruiting and overall coaching decisions. Our analysis will be based on review of film, and while we will express opinion, that opinion should always be based in some form of fact. We will also evaluate strategy and tactics and discuss our observation of player personnel decisions, as well as on-field execution. All right, to that end, let's get things started off and talk about the exciting plays from the game, which we did have several of, thankfully. So let's get that kicked off and talk a little Oh My. Want to get us started with that this evening there, Randy?
Let's do it, my man. Let's do it. I don't have to sneak any in this week. I don't think, but I might get tricky on one of them. But I'll leave that, and you might do the same thing. But we'll see.
I might. We'll see. It'll be interesting because I kind of did. So it'll be interesting to see how these
You
line
kind
up.
of
Go
did.
ahead.
You kind of
Yep.
did. You cheeky man. Okay, here we go. Most exciting plays. I'd be remiss if I didn't start off with DJ to Mizell for a BEA beautiful touchdown grab with 13:42 to go in the second quarter. It's funny. The first couple of drives kind of stalled out, kind of figuring what do we do to get our pace, to get our tone, to get our rhythm. And then all of a sudden this drive gets put together and it finishes in such a great way. The route by Mizell, the separation that he gets, and of course the dime of a throw. And again, DJ's made some longer throws. He's connected on some great bombs, but we've also seen that accuracy come up within 20 yards to 25 yards, and it was BEA beautiful, and the crowd loved it. The first big eruption of the day for the Gators. So that was phenomenal. The second one I'll call out, these last two I'm going to give to the defense. Second one I'm going to call out, true freshman When I say true freshman, he was playing at a high school last year. I did one of his playoff games when he played at Buchholz High School. Miles Graham,
Yeah,
uh,
buddy.
phenomenal shoot up the middle, great scheme, great positioning. And the other thing about that is we've seen a couple of our defensive players, we've seen a couple of our linemen, we've seen a couple on the edge, whatnot, get to the backfield, but touch the quarterback, grab the quarterback, but not finish the play. The thing I love about what Miles did, besides just getting to Beck, was the fact that where he went to tackle Beck and what he did to grab him, lock him up, and basically prevent him from getting loose any way, shape, or form.
Yep.
The overall technique was just phenomenal. And that's a true freshman, folks. True freshman. Again, the kid was playing high school football last year. Phenomenal. The other thing I love about that was the fact that that was in the fourth quarter. They're still fighting. I know we'll talk about that later, but just great effort there. The last, oh my, that I will count, that I will cheat here, B, as you say. I'm just going to say the defense with 3 interceptions.
All right. All right.
Right? Almost 4. Triquez had an opportunity there where they were down around the 4 or 5 yard line where a ball was tipped. He ended up hitting the wide receiver, but you know what? If he was looking alive, if the helmet was up, that could have been number 4. But either way, 3 interceptions in a game. 3 interceptions in as many weeks.
Yeah, I was going to say for the second game in a row.
Second game in a row. Unbelievable. Can't remember the last time the Gators did that. As a matter of fact, I could not find a stat on the last time the Gators did that. But phenomenal. If you're picking 3 in a game, you are definitely giving your offense an opportunity to win. So anyways, those are my moments. What do you got, B?
I like it. I like it. So I have 1.5 the same.
1.5.
1.5. So
okay.
Yeah. So I'm going to start with one of the INTs, and this is the half. I'm specifically going to talk about the Devin Moore pick because I think when you look at those 3, this one from a standpoint of the interception was by far and away the best play by the defender, right? So if you look at how he played this, it was the definition of perfect zone coverage and perfect zone defense, really. It wasn't even really the coverage, it was the way he defended this. So he was responsible for kind of playing the middle intermediate section of the field on that side. And he saw that the man underneath, right in the flat, was covered, right? That he had coverage, that they had somebody there. I don't know who, I think it was a linebacker, but I couldn't tell you for sure. And he was able to then see, okay, that's taken care of. And he immediately from there checks Beck's eyes, sees that he's looking at that side of the field, but that he's looking deeper downfield and starts dropping back. And as he continues to drop back, Beck goes ahead and throws the ball. And Moore just sinks right underneath it, jumps up and makes the pick. This actually wasn't a bad throw by Beck. Now, Beck had some bad throws this game, certainly, but this wasn't one of them. That guy was open or would have been open enough to potentially catch or possibly catch the ball. And Moore just came in and took it away. That was just a great play. I don't know that you're going to see that corner sinking, right, when you're looking at that throw, especially because it's crossing across the field. It's kind of like a sinking linebacker, except this is a sinking corner. It's much deeper down the field, not where you anticipate seeing a corner come into the play like that. I'm not saying it's impossible to read, but you got to be pretty advanced as a quarterback to see that. So I don't think this is really a bad throw by Beck at all. Just an awesome play by Devin. I hope he's able to come back soon because he's having an outstanding season. And you know, as we expected him to, and this was just really, really great stuff. So hopefully, fingers crossed, it's not too serious of an injury. We know he's obviously been more than a little injury prone, but in this case, I'm not faulting him. We'll get to who's to be faulted for the injuries later, or what's to be faulted, as it were. We'll talk about that later on. So my second one is the same as yours, DJ to Mizell. I can't make it rhyme. I tried. I thought about like 15 different ways of how do I make this rhyme. I couldn't do it. Nothing came up. The best I got is DJ's 2 and Mizell's 11, so it's kind of 2 to 2. You know, that's all I got.
Okay.
So as you said, what an absolute beauty of a throw. So here's a fun little stat for you. And to cite this, I got this off the broadcast, so I don't have an actual written source for it. But from the broadcast of this game, before the game, they talked about the fact that Lagway is tied for second in the FBS for most completions over 30 yards this season. And he's only started 3 games and only played how many series in the rest of them? That's pretty freaking impressive that he is tied for second in all of college football going into this game. And he, by the way, completed another one. So he very well may be tied for first now. I don't know. I don't have that stat, but pretty amazing stuff that this kid is able to be producing like this at this level with the limited number of snaps that he's had. So again, absolutely perfect throw, saw the safety, one of the best in the country in Starks, by the way, totally bite on the play action, right? And then delivered again a perfectly thrown ball to a wide open Aiden for the easy 6. Really nice to see the receiver actually get into the end zone. That's not a knock on Badger, certainly, but just really nice to see them both get rewarded, right, for the the way they both deserve to, right? Badger really got some stolen from him, I feel like, against Kentucky, but really just a fantastically executed play. Really like to see it. Last but not least, goes to, this is my cheat one, Jacoby Jackson and the O-line in the Napier 2-minute drill is what I'm calling it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, at the end of the first half. So why is it a Napier 2-minute drill? Because, a 2-minute drill traditionally is you throw the ball. Well, not Billy. He runs the ball. So running the ball down Georgia's throat with less than 2 minutes with your third string quarterback, and you do it well enough to get into field goal range and get the 3 before the half was over was actually awesome. It was actually awesome. I got to say it. I didn't want to see Warner throwing the ball in that situation and having a stupid turnover, and he didn't. We were able to go down the field, march down the field, running the ball, pounding it into their throats, which was just fantastic to see, and get down far enough to be able to kick the field goal. Absolutely awesome, especially when they had just cut the lead to 4 the drive before. Fantastic response, amazing way to go into the locker room, and showing that, really giving some confidence in the fact that, okay, we can move the ball, we can do something even with Lagway out going into the half. I mean, that was really, really great stuff. Now, obviously, Georgia, cut down on a lot of that stuff after the half, and we weren't able to do as effectively except for one drive, but nonetheless, still pretty impressive stuff overall. So with that, those are my 3 for OMIs. I really thought all 3 of those, or the last one's, like I said, kind of cheating, but overall I thought they were really, really great plays. So moving along and talking about the rest of the offense. So as always, we'll start with the combined rating. In this case, the combined rating is not good for Lagway and Warner, as you might expect. It's only a 40, but here's a fun one for you. If it was just Lagway and what he played, his rating, again, NFL rating, was a 102.8. And as we know, anything over 100 is good. So Lagway's performance in this game was quite good, despite being very limited. Now, small sample size, of course, but nonetheless, even though he was only 2 for 6, he still had over 100 quarterback rating. Just let that one sink in. We also averaged just shy, again, taking out the team rushing yards, because we don't count those. We certainly are not going to count a 31-yard loss on a field goal snap as counting against us. So, so team yardage was 3.95 yards per carry, just shy of 4 yards per carry. And realistically, it probably was 4 yards per carry because Warner had 4 carries for minus 10 yards. Now, he's technically a running quarterback, so I'm not going to take it out. But realistically, I don't know how effective he really was as a running quarterback, right? So I left it in, but it probably was closer to being at that 4-yard or a little above it mark. And that's pretty good. That's really pretty good against, again, a very, very good Georgia defense. So solid day running the football overall. My thoughts on the offense overall, it continues to be a different animal when Lagway is at the helm. Georgia was clearly more on their heels, as Randy likes to say, when he was in the game. The defense does not know what is coming because of the threat of the deep pass. Even in Napier's basic route scheme offense, which we saw no variation on, get more to that later, the threat of the QB run, and of course the strength of this offense, which is the traditional running game, create too many possibilities, right? They actually give the defense too much to think about and go, we don't know what to defend here, right? There's too many options that create problems that you just have too much to account for a defense to be able to zone in on one thing and really clamp down, which has been the problem with the offense with, what we've seen with other quarterbacks in it for the most part. Even dating back to AR for the record, because even though AR could throw the deep ball, he couldn't throw it accurately. So, especially once DJ got one down the field, right? Especially once he completed one, to your point, right? Because the first couple series, we weren't really seeing that. They weren't necessarily on their heels. But once he got one, the entire game changed. Almost anything became in play in the ground game and the intermediate part of the field for the fear of the deep ball. It changes everything. Now, again, don't mistake this for me giving credit to Napier's offense. I'm not. And it still should be better. But this is the DJ factor all the way, right? He changes the game with his ability to stretch the field. When it comes to the defense, they make even the slightest mistake, right? Even the smallest error, and he's going to burn them, and they know it. And that's fear, and you want fear, right? You want to strike fear into your opponents when you have the ball, and man, this kid does it in spades. I am so excited. For those that don't know, I'm gonna go ahead and get it out of the way now. Really good news today. The injury is not as serious as was thought. He is expected back sooner than later. They're even floating around the idea of this week. I don't love that plan with a hamstring injury. I think you should give him a week. It's Texas. We're not, frankly, likely to win the game regardless. I don't think that we should rush him back. However, he is more than likely going to see the field again this season based on what we are hearing today, which is just phenomenal news. I did not think that was going to be the case when we saw him get carted off the field, right? We thought he was done. So really, really great stuff there. O-line, again, pretty solid. Good job run blocking and in pass pro against a very, very good and aggressive Georgia team, right? This is a team that eats teams up defensively. I mean, they haven't been as all-world this year, but they're still pretty high in a lot of metrics. And credit to the O-line. I mean, they have been vastly improved since the bye. They just have. It's been much, much, much better. And this game and the last game, especially in run blocking, has been much, much better. Offense in general simply could not produce when Lagway came out, as we, kind of already mentioned, and we just became one-dimensional again. And once that threat was lost, especially after halftime, Georgia just zoned in on that totally. And even though the credit goes to the O-line and the running backs for the runs we were still able to get, Georgia knew that this is all we could do, and they just centered in on it too much. And obviously, we just couldn't produce enough. So, I mean, that's ultimately the story of the game. We all saw it. It was pretty clear that was what was happening. They just loaded up the box and really came after us. And there's just not a lot you can do in that situation. And again, credit for what we were able to get. That drive in the fourth quarter to come back down and tie the game was remarkable. Simply remarkable considering what was going on. But ultimately, not enough, clearly. And it is what it is. But that's my take from the offensive side. What do you got, bud?
Awesome, B. Awesome. Nice breakdown there. Yeah, it's funny. If those of you let that sink in, I hope you did, to understand DJ's completion percentage relative to the QBR. Because
Yep.
that
Yeah.
doesn't compute, right? Because when you look at the completion percentage, the length, the touch, obviously it helps. They didn't have a interception in there, but I mean 102.8, and we agree. What's the number that's really, really good? Anything north of what, B?
Anything over 100.
And there you go. So for the limited amount of snaps he had in this game, that says something. Big difference. That's all I can say is a big difference in the offense between Lagway and, let's say, Warner necessarily, Graham, as well as he did with being methodical by leading us down the field, but there's a massive difference. What I'll equate that to is this. Hey, B, what does a good DJ mean to a party?
Keeps the party going.
It does, doesn't it? What does it do to the vibe?
It improves the vibe, makes it better.
100%. DJ does that. He just does, right? The kid's playing, again, same thing with Miles Graham that I mentioned earlier. The kid was playing high school football in Willis, Texas last year, last fall. And here he is right here just leading a team in a very tough conference. doing it with the leadership style, with his own swag, with his abilities. It's just phenomenal. There's a massive difference. Now, to that end, we know that there's some inefficiencies and some deficiencies with a certain play caller in that offense. However, the way that these plays are being executed, the pre-snap motion. Pre-snap motion is key. You saw Aiden when he came into the game mimicking the same way. And for the record, a lot of us thought that Clay Millen would be the backup because he's got a little bit more experience, a little bit more seasoning on him. He was the transfer from Colorado State. But Aiden Warner came in, redshirt freshman. He won the job. Now, granted, I would say everything that we read said he's got a better grasp of the offense. He was able to dissect it, understand it better. To that end, I say, well, there was a reason why he got accepted to Yale. Yeah, he can probably read some things and figure it out fairly quickly. So that's all I'll say about that. I want to give credit to Napier for you heard me. Yeah. Credit to Napier for the 8-play, 40-yard, 40-second run drive that set up a 53-yard field goal to close out the half. And this is something that we've seen time and time again, clock management, with timeouts, with everything else. You're going into the half. We need to get something, especially if you're not going to get the football. In this case, we were getting the football, but it was just so refreshing, so inspiring to see him march down the field with the backup quarterback and decide to run it down their throats and get us in field goal position. Next call out. Great job to the O-line. The O-line, I mean, yeah, we know the defenses show massive improvement. We'll get to that. But the O-line, great job. Because for those of you who don't know, Jacoby Jackson, welcome back. Welcome back. We've missed Jacoby, indeed. Right? We've missed him over the past few games. Banged up here, banged up there. He was probable a week ago. Didn't really play, didn't start, didn't play. And so
no, he did. He did. No, he wasn't missing. It was Webb that was out. Jacoby played.
I apologize. Thank you for the correction. Webb was
no worries. Out. No worries.
Jacoby saw limited snaps last week, right?
And yes, he did.
For him to come out this week, because we thought we'd see more of Jaden, obviously, right?
Yes, so, and actually, I think Jacoby may have actually gotten more snaps. I don't have a snap count, but he got a lot.
I believe he did. Yeah, because when I look at the overall, I mean, Jacoby finished with 12 attempts, 75 yards. He only lost 1 yard, so netted 74. Touchdown. His long run, 18 yards.
Yeah, and Ball did have 17 carries, so he got more carries, but I don't know about the snap count.
Right. Ball finished with 17 and 60. Again, very respectable. And that was set up obviously by
6.2 yards, 6.2 yards per carry for Jacoby, though. I mean, that's phenomenal.
Yeah, absolutely phenomenal, right? So great job to the O-line for the run block, and not to mention giving up 0 sacks with Lagway. I get it with Werner in the game and his limited abilities to move. I get it. We gave up a couple there, but outside of that,
still only two.
Yeah. There are games where we've given up 4 and 5. So absolutely, right? Big shift there. And that's the other thing too that I think is interesting, because the score really doesn't tell the full story in this game, right?
Not at all. Not at all.
Especially because the way we finished the first half, and especially the game was tied for all intents and purposes with 7:48 left to go in the fourth quarter, right? So that is what it is. A couple of final things. 13 first downs for Florida, 26 for Georgia.
Yeah. 115 that tells the story, though.
Yeah, 115 net rushing yards, 113 net passing. Again, nothing spectacular there. 228 yards on offense. Again, extremely limited. The one thing I was surprised, I would have put us at the 61, 62 play, snap count, 68 to Georgia's 73. So, okay.
Yeah, that is a bit surprising, actually. I'm a little surprised it's that high.
Exactly. Limited penalties here, especially on the offensive side of the football as well, right? Finished with a total of 5 penalties on 42 yards. That was what it was. 3 for 16 third down conversion. That absolutely killed us. And time of possession wasn't too terrible. Georgia at 33, Florida at 26. So outside of that, that's all I've got for the chomp segment, my man.
No, it's good stuff, and I think it does a good job of kind of summarizing where we did do some things well, and then where obviously we ultimately came up very short, honestly, right? And that's kind of the story of this game. But again, how do you not come up short when you lose Lagway not even midway through the second quarter? Like, how do you not come up short in that situation? And it's not, you know, I appreciate the effort and the fight that Aiden put in, but
Yeah.
I mean, he never had a chance. Like, honestly, he just didn't. The fact that we were able to keep it close as long as we did and keep it tied even well into the fourth quarter or get it tied well into the fourth quarter is remarkable. That to me is the testament of the game. And there are no moral victories. I'm not suggesting there are, but there, that's honestly it's as good as we could have done given the circumstances, in my opinion. Now, that doesn't make it a win, but it's still it's good to see what we saw from it, but that doesn't change the fact that we're 4-4. So it is what it is. Let's move on. Talk some defense for me. Give your take on Gator Bait.
Man, I tell you what. So the section that we were in during the stadium, good thing we had a lot of orange and blue around us. There was some red and black, but good thing we had a lot of orange and blue. And I heard a lot of similar things coming from some older heads, talking heads, about the defense as far as, man, they're hanging in. Man, this is tough. Man, we got another injury. Man, they're not quitting. They're not quitting. They're not quitting. They're not quitting.
Yep.
And I can say definitively that this defense, regardless of the injuries, regardless of the personnel, I wish this is the defense that started the season.
Oh man, you're telling me we would have a different record.
We would. Absolutely would. No doubt in my mind. Right. And that's the other thing too. When I look at, we talked about AA. We talked about what happened last year, his first year, calling plays. I get it. He's a young kid, 34 years young, 35 years young. Right. But at the end of the day, with Ron coming in, and we thought, Ron would do some things and this, that, and the other, but the philosophies, right? The schemes, the disguises, it just a little too much, a little too complex. So kudos to Napier for stepping in, miking up players on that first bye week, but also kudos to Napier for accepting some of the concerns that players had by bringing to his attention, hey, coach, like, yeah, we're not playing well yet, but this scheme that's been introduced to us here is different. It's unique. Oh, in other words, it's too complex. Like, simplify, like, keep it simple, stupid, right? Just keep it simple, right? We have talent, we have speed, we have the abilities. Just put us in the right position to succeed. And that's the biggest difference that I can say that we've seen on this defense, especially over the past 4 games. Okay. So to that end, Beck's QBR, 71.77.
Trash.
71.77. I got a couple theories on that. I'll share in a moment. Yards per carry, 4.63. The player, Trader, whose name I still will never name. I will never name him. I will never say the name. I'm sorry. Never name him.
What was it? How many carries for 31 yards? 7, 9, something like that.
Yeah, and he had a whib. His whib hood. Oh, he had a whib injury. I'm sorry.
Oh my goodness.
If you want to go do what you did, and you say I want all the smoke, and you're gonna go out midway through the second quarter because of a rib injury, nah, killer. I'm sorry.
Nah, killer.
I'm sorry. I ain't having that. 4.63 yards per carry. Very, very respectable, because a freshman had to come in and try to finish what you tried to finish.
And average the same, by the way. Average the same.
Bingo. Average the same. Okay. The defense, talk about flexible, like an Olympic gymnast. They bent, boy. Whew, did they bend, right? They only broke because they were gassed, and the final 4 minutes was the final 4 minutes, okay?
Yep.
period.
Yep.
The defense ended up giving up 4 of 11 on third down, 36.4% to Georgia.
Fantastic.
Very, very good. Yes, fantastic. Okay. They gave up 4 explosive plays. The 34-yarder to Arian Smith, the 31-yarder to Urasek, the 22-yarder to Cash Jones, and then the 21-yarder to Lucky Lawson, which I'd say was pretty dang lucky.
It was extremely. Was that which was the one on the sideline?
I thought that was the sideline play.
It might have been. I was asking which one because I believe it was the one to Lucky. And I'm going to tell you,
Lucky, yeah,
I really would have liked to see that reviewed. We'll talk about that later. That catch was close.
I mean, it looked close from 84,000 rows up. I mean, yeah.
It was close, buddy. I watched they did show a couple replays on TV, just brief ones, but they weren't the best angles. It was razor close. His knee was really close to being down out of bounds at the same time his foot was in. But again, we'll discuss it more later.
We will. Agreed. So 4 explosive plays, not terrible. 1 a quarter, we'll take it. Again, very respectable. A lot of ending here. You know, and I can argue that the reason, I mean, the defense was gassed because of the amount of snaps, and not to mention, especially on the pick that Aiden threw, gave him a shorter field, and Aiden obviously telegraphed that pass. They knew where he was rolling, they knew where he was going, and again, there was a lot of traffic there, right? That was almost inevitable. But the other thing to note about this defense is the fact that they just kept fighting. There was no give up. There really was not. At least I didn't feel like it. People in the crowd didn't feel like it. The last thing I'm going to call out, or one of the last things, 9 interceptions on the season, 3 in this game. Gates, Pyburn, Moore. Folks, as I mentioned before, 3 interceptions back-to-back games. Just to give you perspective, 3 weeks ago, we were tied 92 in FBS when it came to interceptions, okay? And now we're in the tie for top 30 in the nation.
Love it.
Unbelievable, right? But that's the thing. When you've got people in the right scheme, in the right position with good discipline, especially like you mentioned earlier about the eyes, right? Reading the eyes, watching the eyes, you put yourself in better positions to succeed, period.
Yeah,
so that's phenomenal. So outside of that, the only other thing I'll say is really, Beck had a terrible first half. They made him sweat. Right. And I'll say the other thing to Beck for that 71.77, either he's thinking about the Lambos or he's thinking about the Cavender twin that he's dating. Either way, it doesn't seem like his head is in that field 100%. And sure, it's okay for me to say that. Yeah, I know. I dislike Georgia. But for really and truly, I did not see Beck rattled that much earlier on in the year. Much less coming into the past couple of years as far as what he was able to do as a passer. So that is what it is. And then outside of that, possession didn't help. Of course, the time we know they were bogged down. Red zone scoring chances, they went 4 for 4, but we still were able to manage 2 sacks on Beck. So again, huge. It was not the ideal game. The stats the score doesn't always reflect it. But big props to the defense. They played their guts out. I'll just end with that.
Yeah, absolutely. No, and 2 of those red zone scores, they were basically gifted the red zone. One, they were gifted the red zone on the pick, and the other one, they were gifted essentially the red zone on the field goal, bad snap. So, it was basically, it wasn't quite red zone, but it almost was. So, I mean, 2 of those, I can't put that on the defense right there. We put them in a hole. It is what it is.
Yes.
So I can't. You can't fault them for that. So anyway, love the takeaways there. I think you're spot on with everything you're saying. Defense absolutely played an amazing game. They jumped off the page. Extremely solid against the run to start. So let's kind of break this down in segments. So they were really, really good against the run to start the game, and really, really for most of the game, minus a couple of reverses where they got a bit out of position. Right, that one really long carry is really what drove the average up for Georgia. And then we had one other one with one of the running backs where they, kind of let that get loose a little bit on him as well. Frazier kind of it wasn't a reverse, but Frazier got the edge and was able to get a pretty good gain out of it because he was just able to get around the corner against, I believe it was Pyburn, and he just couldn't quite close the gap. anyway, the long and the short of it is they were really, really solid against the run once again for the fourth week in a row. Just really sound, stout run defense, clogging up those holes, playing the middle well, not letting Georgia get what they wanted in those situations. Really nicely done. I can't honestly say enough about the run defense considering where it was to start the year. Now, I will say that wasn't, other than the Mississippi State game, the run defense really wasn't horrific other than against the quarterbacks, right? It wasn't horrible, but though it wasn't good against Texas A&M, but it wasn't as bad because obviously it was the QB in that game that got us more. But overall, it was the pass D that was really the glaring weakness, right? And man, were they the star in this game? We played a ton of two deep zone coverage, as we should against Beck, who does throw a great deep ball. He throws a really good deep ball. Not as good as DJ's, let's be clear. Not even close. However, however, he throws a nice deep ball. If you notice, I think he was able to even attempt what I would call a deep ball one time. Now that's solid coverage. That is solid coverage downfield. So that's number one takeaway here. So really good job keeping him away from being able to even attempt those. But then we also do a really good job of forcing him to make throws that he doesn't make near as well, right? The intermediate throws. That's where he's been having the most issues. Is where he's throwing all the picks, right? Has been in those areas. And he started off the game looking really good throwing them, right? I was worried. I was like, crap, this is the problem. If he throws these well for the whole game, we're screwed because we cannot defend the whole field against Georgia. We just can't do it, right? Not the run and the pass. We just can't do it. There's too much talent on their side of the ball. We cannot defend the whole field against them. We can't do it. So I'm like, if Beck's going to keep hitting these throws like he was to start the game, I was like, we're cooked. There's no way. But he did that, and then they got all the way down in the red zone. And you said 4 for 4. You're right. However, the first one we stopped him for a field goal, which was huge, right? So, really nice stand there on that first drive, and I was like, okay, that's good. Let's see what happens from here. And then, of course, he started missing some of those throws. And then after the first pick, clearly his decision making started to falter because that second pick, oh my, that ball would have been picked twice. If Gates hadn't dropped underneath it, which, by the way, fantastic read by Gates to come off. He was manned up with the running back. You saw him looking in the backfield on the start of that play, and as soon as you saw the back stay in pass pro, he dropped into coverage. Perfect read. Very nicely done. And got that pick. But I'm going to tell you right now, if Gates wasn't there, if he didn't do that right, Pup Howard would have picked that ball off. He was right there to pick it off as well. That ball was picked off twice. So there is no way that Beck had his head anywhere but in the clouds on that throw. I don't know what he was thinking on that one. So as I said, the first pick wasn't bad. The second one was terrible. And then, of course, the third one comes from the pressure that we got. And I think combined with some of the pressures that we were throwing at him, and then, of course, having his head in a complete blender at that point, we had him reeling. Now he comes out at halftime, and what happens? They make changes to their pass protection, and our blitz stops getting home near as well. I know Miles Graham got one later, but for the most part, our blitz was not getting home anymore. And that caused problems because then when we did blitz, we were obviously man coverage downfield with maybe a safety or two over top, but overall man coverage downfield. And that is much harder to sustain when you throw a blitz that then doesn't get picked up. He's got a few seconds to throw. And then, of course, obviously somebody usually comes open. They did, and he hit him. That was ultimately the problem that we had in the second half. Our blitzes were not getting home. Credit to Georgia and their second half adjustments to clean that up, to pick up the blitz, do better in their pass protection. And that was ultimately, I think, one of the biggest differences in the game in the second half for us defensively is we were just not able to get some of that pressure. Because even when we didn't sack Beck in the first half, we were getting pressure consistently. We did not in the second half. Huge difference there, allowed him much more time to be on platform and throw, and he threw better as a result. No surprise. Overall, hats off to the defense. Outstanding game, incredibly well schemed. Very well executed, just too many series for UGA. We did, you talked about the snap count being pretty equal, but the series count for them was through the roof. I mean,
Yes.
I don't know how many they had, but they had a ton. And when you give a team that many series, especially a team that's as good as Georgia is, your defense eventually just can't hold up. I don't care who they are. And then, of course, as I already mentioned, some tough field position situations at the end of the game. But I mean, they did all they could, frankly, and I think more. Again, as you mentioned, 3 turnovers and 2 sacks. And for the record, if we didn't already mention it, Georgia had given up 1 sack all season coming into this game. We literally doubled the sack total they had allowed for the season in one game. It's pretty impressive. Pretty impressive stuff. So I can't say enough about the D and how well they played. Absolutely phenomenal. I said earlier Tennessee was the best performance of the year and the best performance I've seen in a long time. I got to tell you, this one's better. Absolutely next level stuff from the defense. Hats off. All right. To that end, let's talk a little visor throw, or not to that end, I should say, because this is going to change gears and talk about stuff that isn't good. um, so I already mentioned it. We did not see any real change, or really any change at all, in that matter, in play design when Lagway was in the game, like what we were hoping for and what we talked about last week. Maybe it was still coming because obviously he did not play even half the game, though I doubt it. But Billy continues to make it harder than it needs to be for this team. And he is limiting his team from their potential offensively. And it's just not okay. It's just not okay. It aggravates the hell out of me every time I see it. He is doing things that he doesn't need to do that make it harder for this team to produce offensively when you have the talents that you have in the speed of the wide receivers and the arm talent of Lagway. It's a natural mix to go deep consistently and set up your routes to do so, and he does not do it. Makes no sense. Drives me nuts. That's all I got on that point. Now, the point I'm really PO'd about has nothing to do with Florida. Well, has something to do with Florida, has something to do with Jacksonville, and that would be the friggin' Everbank Field. I am so tired of this effing turf in this stadium. It took out Shamar last year and some others during the game. I don't recall who specifically, but I know that it did. And this year, obviously, it caused issues left and right for both Georgia and Florida throughout the game as countless guys went down. The Gators that I know of, injured during this game were Damian George, Sharif Denson, Devin Moore, Dijon Johnson, and of course, DJ Lagway. All left the game and did not return, except for possibly George because he was injured late. I don't know if he came back or not, but the other 4 out and did not return. We have got to stop playing this game on this field. I know it is a tradition to play it in Jacksonville, but this field is garbage. I know they're renovating the stadium in 26 and 27, so we won't play it there then. They better renovate the damn grass with it. I am so done. I am so done with this turf. It is just, it's one of the worst turfs in football. The pros complain about it. It is crap. I'm so over it. I'm so over it. Okay. End rant. What do you got for visor throw?
Wow, bud. I interesting. Okay. Interesting. I've got a few more. I thought yours was gonna get
Nope.
yours was gonna get pretty dirty, especially because of the freaking field.
Well, the
But
field
okay.
the field got it pretty dirty for sure. But I'm gonna leave it at that because that point needs to resonate. It is an atrocity. That field is an absolute atrocity. It does not deserve to have a game, especially a game of this caliber, quite frankly, get played on it. It doesn't deserve it.
I guess we're gonna have to go back to between the hedges and hang 50 on them. Okay, fair enough. Anyways, outside
No,
of
we're
that.
playing it in Atlanta and in Tampa in 26 and 27. It's not going to Athens or Gainesville.
I know, but that's the odd part. If anyone ever tells me, "Oh yeah, the Mercedes-Benz Dome is a neutral site," like, okay, sure, yeah, okay. Anyways, to that end, first visor throw, and he's done great all year. He's had some great tackles on special teams. He's done some great things blocking. Rocco Underwood.
Yeah. Yeah.
Botch snap on a 51-yard field goal. And that
I was
51-yard
shocked.
field goal, it's not the fact that it was a 51-yard field goal. It was the fact that Rocco Underwood, that was the worst snap of his life.
I know. It's crazy.
Okay. That the score
Couldn't
was
couldn't couldn't have come at a better time.
I tell you, it was tied 13-13. That now again, a 51-yarder, that's okay.
No,
I had
it was tied 20-20. That was to take the lead when it was 2020.
okay, well that's the thing, right? That could have put us up by 3. Instead, Georgia comes down because of excellent field position, and they score a touchdown and
Then we throw a
big
pick.
momentum shift. Huge
Yep.
momentum shift. So Rocco called you out a few pods ago. Called back out. Come on, man. Just could not believe what I saw. It was almost like the plays of old. Because I'll tell you what, we started the season. Joe Houston had that special teams crew reeling. Okay. And a lot of the issues have been fixed. And then for whatever reason, special teams have had a unique snafu rear its ugly head in each of the past 4 weeks. Oddly enough, as the defense has gotten better. I don't get
Yep.
that. I really
I don't
don't.
either.
Right? When it comes to an illegal substitution, when it comes to 12 on the field, and
Yep.
then not getting the runoff, and then going into the half, not getting 3.
Kick
And here's
return
another
for a touchdown.
right? Here's another opportunity to get 3, and it gets botched, literally and figuratively. Okay, that's done. Next visor throw. The injury bug. Lagway, Dijon Johnson, Devin Moore, Sharif Denson, Jordan Castells, Damian George. Really? Really? Everbank Stadium. The estimated amount of the renovation, $1.38 billion. I'll just round up to 1.4. I hope part of that renovation means new grass. Okay? I tell you what, Mr. Khan, I have a reference, okay? I've got a guy, I have a professor at UF who has done some fantastic, amazing things with splicing blends of zoysia grass, okay? Hardy, robust. I got a guy, okay? Let's talk.
Yeah, and they partnered with the Jags, I believe. UF Health did, right? So let's talk. Let's do it, please.
Seriously, whatever turf that was, that's not the Zoys that I've come to know and love. Anyways, whatever.
It's probably Bermuda.
Zoysia, Bermuda, spliced, mixed. Yeah. Either way, it needs to go into the St. John's. That's where it needs to be. Next throw, illegal substitution penalty with 6-ish minutes coming to the end of the first quarter. At this point in time, regardless of anything else that happens, an illegal substitution, we should be over it. Little stuff like that, the ticky tack stuff.
So
and the last,
so I got to call that one out. Because you were there, did you see what happened with that one?
No.
So it was Sharif running off the field. He was literally a quarter of a step from being off the field when they snapped the ball. Like his foot was in the air. It hadn't hit the sideline and they flagged it. It was very ticky-tacky.
Gotcha. And for the record, I know sometime in the high school game, the official will come out a little bit from the end line, let that player exit and stuff like that, especially if it's the game's a blowout. But
it was a tough call, to be honest with you. Billy was pretty pissed about it. It was very, very, I can't say it was questionable because letter of the law, it was right, but they could have let it go.
I got you. So anyways, that was a visor throw for me. And my last visor throw is going to be a quote. All right. This source is by Sports Illustrated. This is none other than Andy Staples, who has been very strong with his opinions, especially towards Napier.
Yep.
The quote reads, "I think the way his players are playing for him says a lot about him." And again, that was a quote from Staples through Sports Illustrated on Sunday. Staples was very adamant and called for Napier's exit after the 33-20 loss to Florida West, another team or reference that I will not reference their true name. And this is what I think is interesting, because I think some of the people who had those strong opinions previously outside of Staples. Now they're coming out and seeing a lot of what the players are seeing and what they're saying and what they're hearing. And again, not excusing anything else, but remember what we talked about absolutes, B. Remember those absolute statements. That's what's tough when you got to come back from that. And now you've got people changing a tune or trying to hum a different tune, or I didn't say that, or yeah, I may have said that, or whatever the case might be. At the end of the day, this is where we have an issue with some people being fair weather, some of the fans being fair weather. And I get it. I get the frustrations. But at the end of the day, sometimes it's hard to face the reality of certain phrases and words that come out at certain times that can be potentially damning. And that's it.
Yeah. And for the record, I'm not changing my tune. I stand by it.
And that's fair. And you have more than backed and justified that too. So that's okay.
All right, fair enough. But you're right. He did say, I actually heard him on a YouTube broadcast last night saying, and for the record, what he's saying is he said, maybe I'm wrong. I could have been wrong. We'll see. So that was his statement. And at least there he's backing it up and saying, hey, maybe I got it wrong. So, at least there he's admitting to that. So I'll give him that. He's not saying, oh, I didn't say that or you took me wrong or something. No, he's just flat out saying, yeah, I said that and maybe I was wrong. So, at least I'll give him that. All right.
That's good because as part of the article, it didn't state the second half. So that's good. I'll take it.
So it might not have been quoting that particular thing. I don't know. But anyway, all right, moving on. Recruiting. No decommits this week. That's good.
Hey,
but we are on the verge of losing one. We are on the verge of having a decommit as a D lineman. I can't remember the name off the top of my head right now, but we have a 3-star D lineman commit that's almost certainly going to flip to Georgia based on what I'm hearing. He was at this game and he's probably going to flip.
We are up from 33rd to 32nd though. Oddly enough, after
with no commits. Hey, there you go. So there is that. However, I will say on a positive note, there has been some buzz around the possibility of making some headway with a few recruits. We put out an offer to a receiver that's committed to Arizona, a tight end that I don't think is committed anywhere yet. And there's been some positive response. And I think we're after an O lineman that's committed somewhere else. I cannot recall. Anyway, I'm not going to get into the details of it because I don't like to talk about players that are just potentially going to do something. So until they commit, we're not going to get into the details of it. But there has been more positive buzz in the recruiting this week, I would say, than negative buzz, which is the first time that I've heard that in quite some time. So at least that's something. I'll give it that. And we need something because this recruiting class continues to be train wreck. Pretty close. It's not good. It's not good. It's gotta get better in a hurry. And we're running out of time. You have a month and a couple weeks to get it done. Not a lot of time. Okay. Anything from you on recruiting on Hashlinks?
No, other than the fact that we went from 33 to 32nd with still 11 commits. How? Not sure, but we'll take it.
Probably just a decommit from another class somewhere else. A flip somewhere else is usually what causes that. Somebody else dropping rather than us actually climbing. Usually what does it. But anyway. Yep. All right. Moving on. Let's talk a little Pride and Sunshine. What do you got for me? I'll let you lead this one off.
Absolutely. I tell you what, in the stadium, it was a audible just gasp when DJ goes down, when DJ went down, right?
I'm sure.
The audible gasp and the oh crap and all the other expletives that came with that. I'm not sure if you all saw it on the broadcast, for those of you who watched it on TV, but what a sight to see every player off the sideline and surrounding the cart.
Yeah, they showed it.
Yeah, good, because that was an unreal moment right there. And for a true freshman quarterback, just a true freshman player in general, to earn the respect of a team like that with all the upperclassmen and being the new kid on the block, phenomenal.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Very cool. Second thing, the character of this group shows up.
You got that right.
Each and every week. It just shows up, right? These guys have so much going for them by way of the internals. And the other thing that is very pleasing to hear is the fact that the lack of extracurricular activities. Okay. I'm going to give a quote by Napier, and the source is Sports Illustrated. I think we have really impressive kids. I think we have some unbelievable human beings on our team. We don't have a distraction. We don't have one guy that isn't compliant. We have no discipline issues. We have a group that shows up on time. They work. I think the leaders on our team have done a great job holding other people accountable, and it's now becoming the expectation. Took long enough, but I'll take it. Awesome. Character of this team, amazing. Next point. Kirby Smart on Nate Frazier. Did y'all happen to catch what on TV what happened there?
Just that he berated him after the celebration. That's all.
Yeah. What was interesting to hear, and maybe it's coach speak, maybe it's trying to keep up appearances, but what was interesting to me was to hear Kirby say, I'm not interested in your gator chomp and your throat slashing. It's not respectful. That's not who we are. I'll take it. Whatever. And
I mean, is it not who they are, though?
Hey, man, either way, regardless of what we know and or don't know about the program, about the extracurricular activities, I can't say that Kirby, I think there's a healthy respect there for Billy and knows how Billy plays it. So regardless of everything else.
I won't argue that. And I also won't argue that I think Kirby also is very good at saying the right things in front of the camera. I'll leave it at that.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong. So I thought that was very interesting. But to take a kid on the sideline and chew him out outside of, not liking the 15-yard penalty, fair enough. And then the last one is, I will give credit to Coach Napier for a couple things. I just mentioned about the character. We just mentioned about the fact that there's some impressive men on this team. Okay. Credit to Napier for ignoring all the outside noise. There's been a lot of noise, especially since Florida West game, right? We know it. The noise, the hot seat, the temperature, the Lane Kiffin's coming to Gainesville. Okay. Jed Fish is coming to Gainesville. They should go here. We should go here to look for the next coach. Napier's not cut. He's not fit. He's going to be out. All the smoke, the hot seat, whatever, ignored it and kept on going. Even the internal boos that have come from the swamp. And there have been probably 3 or 4 sets of boos, B. I can't cite exactly, but there's probably been 3 or 4 different sets of boos that have come from the swamp at home games this year. And he just continues to go the path. That's my pride of sunshine.
Yeah, I think those are all really good points. Mine is pretty simple. Once again, culture shows through in the game. Team was obviously ready to play from the start, coming out and not only taking, but then keeping the first half lead, even when DJ went down, right? Keeping a touchdown lead in a game they were favored to lose by 2+ touchdowns. And then to have the will to fight back after they lost the lead and tie the game up despite not having Lagway, and then have a chance to regain the lead with that field goal. Obviously, tough break there. Despite all the other tough breaks that they had and all the injuries and everything else, it's just an unreal amount of heart on both sides of the ball, really, but especially the defense. I continue to just love to watch this team play. No matter who's out there, quite frankly, no matter what happens, I'm still going to want to watch the rest of the season. Because this team is just the passion that they play with, the drive, the want to that they have is, college football has more of that anyway. Obviously, I think it's why we love it. But this team has it in spades. And it's really great to see. They have it no matter who they're playing. They had it against Samford. It didn't matter. They want to be out there playing football, having a good time, playing for each other, as I say every week, playing for the team, playing for the school, playing for Napier. I'll give it to him for sure. I've never taken that away. He gets this team in the space that they need to be in. And to your point about disciplinary stuff, I will add this in. I love that this team doesn't have disciplinary issues. I really love it. I do. And maybe the most impressive piece of that I will say is you took on a guy in this offseason who was notably a disciplinary, maybe not disciplinary problem, but notably a concern.
Oh yeah.
And if you don't know who I'm talking about, I'm not going to name names, but he had a history of some difficult behavior. We'll put it that way. Nothing criminal, but just some difficult things. And there hasn't been issue or problem one. There really hasn't. I mean, there was a little scuttlebutt in the offseason about him potentially being late for a couple practices and maybe the team having to do some stuff because of it, but that was it. And I'm not even sure if that's completely true, quite frankly. I think it is, but I don't know for sure. I can't. That came from some reporting from an article from Nick Delatorre on On3. Nick Delatorre, excuse me, let me pronounce his name right. And I don't know for sure that really even happened. I'm not questioning Nick. I'm just saying that, it's just sources reporting this stuff, and, it's not like he was there to witness that. So I don't know. It probably did happen, but obviously it's cleaned up now. So ultimately, this is a really good unit of guys, as Napier said, and that is really nice. It's good to see. But ultimately, at the end of the day, what matters is, what they do on the field. And that's the part that I've been most focused on. And that's been phenomenal. It's just been phenomenal. So it's really great to see. Anyway, let's move on. Let's talk a little officiating, a little move back, you suck. And there's some question marks in this game. I don't think it was enough to cause anything that was game altering, but there was definitely a few eyebrow raises for me in this game. They were a little bit suspect. The things I'll call out, I saw an offensive offside call on Georgia get missed. There was a receiver lined up in the neutral zone, was not flagged. It's pretty obvious, too. It was not close. He was like over the line. There was the shove in the face by Frazier after it was either Boone or Sapp. I can't recall, to be honest. Took him down. It was way out of bounds. It absolutely should have been flagged as a personal foul. It was not at all, which was not okay. There was nothing crazy egregious, right? But it definitely seemed like it was a little in favor of UGA. And you have to wonder, after the Texas controversy, right, 2 weeks ago, which if you don't know, there was a play call, there was a call not made for, I believe it was pass interference, or maybe it was made. It was one of the two. And Texas threw a bunch of trash on the field, literally. And then the refs reversed the call, which is wild and incredibly inappropriate, in my opinion. It's not to say refs can't go back and reverse a call. They certainly can. But the fact that fans were able to throw trash on the field and make that happen is, I posted about it. I think it's a horrible, horrible precedent set by that. But anyway, we'll leave that one alone. We already mentioned the lack of review on the lucky catch as well. I found that a little bit suspect. It was a very, very close call. I'm not saying he didn't catch it. I don't know, but it should have been looked at. It should have been looked at. It warranted a review, and that didn't happen either. So all this stuff, when Kirby called out the refs after that happened. I didn't finish my point about the Texas thing. Kirby called out the refs. He basically said the refs were trying to take the game from him. I mean, he made some borderline inappropriate comments, as he's inclined to do, in my opinion. And you have to wonder, do the refs have that in their heads? Because I know they're not supposed to. I know they're supposed to tune out the noise and not listen to any of that stuff, but they're people at the end of the day, right? They're humans. Randy knows this as well as anybody. And you're still suspect to that. You're still affected by these things. And when one of the kingpins of college football says, hey, you're not doing your job right, basically, effectively what he said, basically is what he said, that's going to resonate and it's going to ring through. So does that stuff hang around? Yeah, you bet it does. It doesn't just disappear. It doesn't just go away. So did that have some effect? I can't help but wonder. Because again, it was nothing crazy egregious, but there were just some things where it's like, that probably should have been flagged, or it probably should have been looked at, or it probably should have been, judged a little differently. And then, like I said, we're getting some kind of ticky-tack stuff on us. That ain't happening to Georgia. Because if you're calling Sharif Denson not getting his foot out of bounds a quarter second before the ball snapped, but you're not flagging a shove to the face of another player after the play is dead by Georgia, what are we doing? So that's all I got. What's your take?
Yeah, so that Georgia-Texas game, and of course, as Kirby mentioned, they're trying to rob that game from us.
Yeah.
Matt Loeffler was the referee, longtime SEC official referee. And, it's a shame how that played out, not to mention all the trash on the field. Talk about just an overall upsetting sight. But anyways, to that end, Danielle Gautreau was our white hat. I've had some issues with Daniel over the years, but for the most part, a moderately decent called game. A couple things I had pointed out was I'm glad y'all saw that on the broadcast as well. The UGA receiver lined up in the neutral zone.
Yep.
It was a bunch set, and I was like, wait a minute, he looks a little bit more further than everybody else, but whatever. Okay. So there's that. Of course, the spot going out of bounds. So, sorry, not out of bounds. I apologize. With the illegal substitution, right? Bang, bang play, or not even a play, just bang, bang timing when it came to blowing the whistle on that. And then the other thing, too, that I thought was huge, and I'm not sure if they showed it on TV, but they showed it on the big screen in the stadium, the face mask penalty that was called on Big Dez in the first half.
Yeah.
You got the inside collar of the jersey, and it was not reviewed, led to a big first down.
Yeah.
So those were three of my biggest things that I saw. But really and truly, when I looked at everything in total, again, the sum total of everything, not completely terrible. I mean, we had 5 penalties for 42 yards. They had 5 penalties for 48 yards. Almost net zero. So
yeah, which is really surprising. But here's the thing, though. If you look at the stats going into this game, Georgia was heavily more penalized than we were.
Oh, yeah.
So the fact that it was even means it wasn't really even if you look at the numbers coming in.
Well, that's what I was wondering. If that Texas game affected it, obviously it's a different crew, right? But is it one of those things where they knew that if they're officiating a Georgia game, do they have to – because, I mean, as officials at the high school level, we talk about it, right? Hey, did you miss this? Okay, was this an offside? Was this a false start? Was this a hold? Do we miss it? Okay, do we have to make it even? Do we have to give back one? Do we have to – because you're trying to I mean, does that happen at the NCAA level? I don't see why it wouldn't.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure. But anyway, well, I guess we'll never know unless you get there.
Yeah, right. Yeah, give me another 10 more years.
There we go. All right, cool. Let's move it on. Let's wrap it up. Give me your thoughts on where we're at and where we go from here.
Unreal, man. Unreal. 4-4. I still firmly believe, and B, I'll agree with you. Talking offline about this game, arguably the last time we won this game was 2020, and over the past few years, this seemed like the best opportunity that we had to win. And I'm telling you, I still firmly believe, and I think a lot believe with me, that the score of this game, the final score, does not really dictate and tell the whole story. I mean, we're up 13-6 at halftime. The game was tied 20-20 with 7:29 left to go in this game. I know we're not supposed to say things like this, but if DJ finishes this game, do we come out with a win? Do we?
I'm gonna say something similar.
Right, but that's the thing, right? How do you not postulate? How do you not surmise? And you know what? If only so. You look at this game, coming out of here with a win, regardless of rivalry and everything else, an undefeated team, an unranked team, number 2 team in the nation, arguably a major upset, almost like a Vandy, Alabama type caliber.
Not arguably. Well, it ain't that much of an upset. Let's calm that down. That's one of the upsets of the century. We're us beating Georgia is not that much of an upset. If we're in Vandy, Alabama territory, we have sunk to a new low, my friend.
Well, as far as this year regarding the strength of schedule and everything else, as far as the chances that we were given, right? And obviously the line changed before the game started. I get that, no problem. But the other thing is, we're 4-4 right now. The Georgia game finishes differently. If the Tennessee game, if we can finish that game, finish that differently, the season looks a lot different, right?
Yeah, it does. The season looks a ton different.
A ton. It's 6-2. Oh yeah, isn't Vanderbilt 6-2? See, look, I just brought up Vanderbilt again. Odd, but that's the thing. It just seems like we're so close. And I said this earlier, and I'm gonna say it again. I firmly believe that the team that played, especially on the defense, that played on Saturday, was not the team that started the year. And I would have liked to have this team start that year against Miami.
Yeah.
And if we can build off of this and block out the noise and block out all the smoke and everything else that's going on, and if Napier can really do some wizardry and tune these guys in, finish out the season strong, be competitive, stay in these games, don't have a Miami result, don't have a Florida West result, but stay in these games and give us a reasonable opportunity to be respectable. There's a lot to be said to finish out the season that way relative to how it started and how it could have gone, the path that we could have been led down.
I mean, again, I agree with that, but I'll reiterate there are no moral victories. And regardless of how you started versus how you finish, I agree in making improvements and things getting better. I'm all for that. However, if you finish out the season 5-7, you're still 5-7, and that's still not good enough. So I would argue even 6-6 is questionable. However, considering how the season's gone with certain things and certainly some of the injuries, I'd probably say that is, borderline okay. But it's still not okay in certain other ways, and we've had that conversation, so I'll leave it alone. Oh, I didn't mean to cut you off. Was that the end of what you had there?
No, that's it. And the only other thing I was going to add was, after you made that statement, was, do we finish with DJ? Do we finish without DJ? Does that make a difference in your mind?
No, because it's still the same problems no matter who we finish with. Goes back to what I said before. I don't care if we end up 8-4. If you're not changing how you're getting there and what you're doing from a play calling and play design standpoint, the problems still exist. You're still not getting to a championship level of football. So I'm out.
10-4.
It's where I sit. And that hasn't changed. And until it does, that's where I am. So, and I don't think it will, for the record. That seemed to be pretty steadfast. So,
sure.
My take is this is by far the toughest game I've had to watch in a long time as a fan. Not just because of the way it ended, but because of the way it progressed, right? To see this team, as you said, have the opportunity to get the win and then feel like it got snatched away. And for the record, not the win, the opportunity. I'm not saying we would have won. I'm saying we had the chance to, and that chance was taken, right? Because once DJ left, it was over. It just, as soon as he went out, I was like, well, that's it. And it really was. The fact that we even hung in as much as we did was amazing. It was amazing. But they were never going to really be able to do that. I mean, realistically, the odds of that are just, can't calculate them, obviously, but they're just not good. We'll leave it at that. Again, credit to the players, credit to the defensive coaches for just an outstanding game plan. I can't say it enough. I think the scheme was perfect. And I don't say that lightly. I think the scheme defensively in this game was perfect. I don't think you could have done it better, considering the talent, considering what you were up against with Georgia. I don't know what else you could ask for other than to not lose your starter and your leader and your star quarterback to the crap field that is Everbank Stadium and have to go with your third string and ultimately lose the game. I could ask for that not to happen. But aside for that, I don't know what I could ask for in the way that this team played and in the way this defense was put together. Really gave us all the opportunity in the world to go out and win it if it weren't for that. So, it is what it is. Again, the opportunity. I don't want to be quoted as saying that we would have won with DJ. I'm not saying that, but we definitely had a chance to. And that's something that nobody really gave us. And I think we definitely had that in spades, really. So, it's tough. It's very difficult. I thought the Tennessee game was tough to stomach. This one was way harder to stomach, just watching him go down and thinking about what that meant, not only for this game, but potentially the future. So it's really great today to hear that it's not long term in all likelihood. And hopefully that's the case. And hopefully he can come back by, I'm going to root for LSU because I'll be there and it'd be nice to see him come back. So we're going to go with that one. All right, let's move it on. Do a little keep it or pitch it here. Recap from the UGA picks. I went 2-1. You went 1-2. The only difference being the one we picked differently. So let's run through them real quick. UGA ranked 13th in the country in scoring defense, coming in at 16.86 points per game. While we did best that, we were currently at the time 47th at 30.9 points per game. We said we would score at least 27, came up a touchdown short of that, of course. Obviously, there are reasons why. I think we definitely could have gotten there, but again, that was stripped away. We both kept that for obvious reasons. Clearly, we didn't get there for obvious reasons, so that was wrong on both. Second one, UF ranks 73rd in total defense at 370.9 yards per game, though averaging 298 per game in the past three, while UGA ranks 41 in offense at 427.9 yards per game. UF will hold GA under 400 yards of total offense, and this was the one that I think would have been the deciding factor into whether or not we won, at least potentially. I pitched it, Randy kept it. Though I said it was close, we came in at 455. Obviously, again, I think this defensive scheme would have held them to that if they just didn't get so many dang possessions. Again, it was just too much of them having the football for them to also ultimately hold on. So that was the difference there. I got that one right. And then the last one we both got right. UGA's was a 16-point favorite when we did this. Obviously, came down to 14.5. And we said Florida would cover. They covered either one of them at the 14, so we both kept it and we were right. So on to Texas. All right, so we had to change these up a little from what we would normally do in terms of offensively. So we'll get to that in a minute, but we'll start off with the defensive ones. So currently, Texas ranks 20th in the country in third down conversion percentage, and this is probably the key stat of this whole thing, at 46.5%, while UF ranks 76th in third down defense at 39.4%. We got that under 40%, which is cool because we were not there at all to start the year. Texas will convert less than 42% of their third downs. Keep it or pitch it.
Yeah. Tough number. And it was tough for a reason, but I will pitch it.
Okay. Yeah, I'm going to pitch it too. I am operating, I don't know where Randy's at on this, but I am operating in the assumption that Lagway is not going to play. And because of that, I think it's a situation here again where they just get the ball too much and the defense is just going to wear down because we're not able to produce enough offensively, right? It's a very different thing for Lagway to play a quarter and a half versus him to play none. I think that's going to be very difficult on the defense. I don't think they're going to have enough in the tank to last the entire game. And I think even if they start strong, they're not going to be able to finish at that same pace. Not taking anything away from them, but I just think it's going to be too much of an ask. And Texas converts the heck out of third downs. 46.5 is a mean number. That is up there.
Oh, yeah.
Almost 50% conversion over halfway through the season. That is high. Yeah, I'm pitching this. I do think it'll be close. I do think we will keep it respectable and in the probably mid to low 40s, but I don't think quite under 42. All right, number 2. Texas ranks number 16 in the country in total offense at 453.1 yards per game. Hoo-wee. While UF ranks 81 at 381.4 yards per game allowed. Again, this number is higher because of what was happening earlier in the season. The Gators defense will hold Texas under 420 yards of offense. Keep it or pitch it.
Another tough number. I want to say yes. I want to keep it. I want to keep it, but I will unfortunately have to pitch.
Yeah, I'm with you. Same situation because
Okay.
because again, I'm projecting Aiden to be the starter. Again, too many series, too many opportunities for Texas. I just think it's a very similar thing to Georgia. We could have very easily kept Georgia under 400 that game if we had the ball for longer amounts of time, right? Uh, More time during those series that we did have. We didn't. We couldn't. Too many plays for the defense. Too many drives against them, and it can't hold up. So I'm with you. Again, it's close, but I think they get over the 420 number. All right,
Yeah.
last but not least, Texas ranks number 16th again in the nation in rushing defense at 105.5 yards per game allowed. Since the first bye, so this is key. Since the first bye, we're not doing overall yardage, but since the first bye, UF has been averaging 154 yards per game as the O-line run blocking has improved, so 154 rushing yards per game, since our O-line, again, has improved in run blocking. UF will rush for at least 140 yards in this game. Keep it or pitch it.
Yeah, I don't see how I see a way to it, but I really believe that O line is going to be locked in on run blocking in lieu of the quarterback situation. So that is one that I am actually going to keep.
We agree on all three. Amazing. That does
What?
not normally happen. Yeah, that is
Wow.
unusual. Yeah, I'm with you once again
Wow.
because Aiden is my projected starter. And for the record, even if DJ was here, it wouldn't matter either way. I think we get to this number. I think it's going to be a key to us keeping this game even remotely close. Which, for the record, I don't know how close this game stays. I think this one could get ugly. Uh, the defense is going to have to really show up again to keep this even remotely a ball game because the offense is going to really struggle to do anything. I mean, unless DJ does play, which again I'm not in favor of, uh, but yeah, it's going to get tough. So, all right, so we agree on all three. Which, by the way, I didn't review the progress for the season. I am now 13-11. You are 11-13. So two game,
Yeah,
two
that
two
sounds
pick
right.
separation now. But it's
Hmm.
still very close, still very close. So obviously we won't have any blood this week because whatever it ends up will be the same. But we'll move on and go
Right.
from there. All right. So notes from the Sims. So first, a disclaimer: Aiden Warner is not available for me to use in NCAA 25. He's not in the game. He needs to get on that for some NIL money, but
Uh-huh.
he is not in the game. Um, so I had to use Clay Millen because the other quarterback that is on the roster is just not viable. I mean, he's there, but his stats do not equate to where I think it would be even fair to play him, even though he is a freshman quarterback. But it's not the same player, and it's not equatable. His numbers are way lower from a rating standpoint, so I had to use Clay Millen. So, having said that, I subbed out everybody else that I thought would be out versus people I thought would be in. I made best guesses. I couldn't, equate it right away, but I did take more out. Um, I put Sharif back in because it didn't look like his injury was as serious. I took Deshaun Johnson out though because he did look more serious. So I went Cormani, I think, is the starting number one corner. Um, so it's the corner room is pretty light. Um, but regardless, that's how I broke it down. I did bring Asa Turner back for the game because I'm hoping he will actually be back this week, but I don't know. Anyway, without getting into all the breakdown of injuries, we went 3-7, which surprised me that we even won three, quite frankly. Um, but there was an interest. But again, we don't use this as a predictive model for who's going to win. What was interesting though was the third down conversion defense. So I mentioned when we did the keep it or pitch it, that was the key stat. In two games that we held them under 40% in third down conversions, we won, even with a negative turnover margin in both of those games. One we were -1, the other we were -2 in turnovers, and we still won. In the other game we won, we held them to 44% third down conversion, but we returned a kick for a touchdown, which was the difference in the game because we only won by 3. Lastly, in one game where we had a +2 turnover margin, it was the only game where there was a positive turnover margin for us more than +1. So we had +2 in turnovers, and it was 2-0, by the way. We still lost the game. Care to wonder why? Because we allowed a 61% third down conversion rate.
Ouch.
Yep. So third down conversion is by far and away the key stat here. If we let them go, really, I think anything over 40, you can forget about it. Honestly, I don't know that even holding them to 40 will cause us to win, but it puts us in the game if we can keep them right at or below 40%. So you and I both picked it. We didn't think they would do that. So I think we've given our verdict on whether or not we think they're going to win.
Yeah.
However, should that happen, should we get a Georgia-like performance on third down, don't be surprised if it's more competitive than you think. That's what I would say. Texas is a very methodical, work the ball down the field team. So if you stop them consistently on third down, they can't do that. And therefore, they give you the ball back. And I think that's why, once again, the NCAA 25 really does get some stuff right. I think if you stop them, you stop drives, and they can't score. So interesting takeaway. So that's very much what Georgia did to them. So, that and turned them over 3 picks.
Yeah. But, very interesting, especially the other stat that Texas is, as we found the other stat about net punting, Texas number 111th, 112th in the nation at net punting. So they don't necessarily flip the field when they give the ball up. So if we can really capitalize on field positioning, that might be a silent advantage there.
Could be. So if we can put some of those things together, who knows? And we can run the ball well on top of it. Maybe Aiden can come up with something if he in fact is the starter. So I don't know. We'll see what happens. But as of right now, I'm not optimistic for a W this week. I'm not going to lie, but we'll see if we can keep it at least close. I honestly have questions if we can do that, because I just think it's a tall task to go into Austin and play a really good team. I mean, they're a very good team. I'm not trying to take away from them in the slightest. They're very, very well structured, very well put together. Sark's got a solid program out there. So we'll see what happens. So to that end, I think that about wraps it up from my perspective. You got any final thoughts here?
You know what? Thanks again for tonight, man. The therapy session was good.
Yeah.
The hangover leaving Jacksonville, not that good. But at the end of the day, I'm really glad to see a couple of themes come true, right? As far as we didn't really know what how certain teams they have an identity. Some teams you can point to and go, what's their identity? Oh, it's rushing the football. What's their identity? Passing. What's their identity? We struggled with an identity for a long time. And I think the identity that I've come out with, especially after these past 4 games, is going to be grit, because there have been some gritty performances. So I'll take that. Can we get healthy? I hope we can get somewhat healthy. Regardless of what happens with DJ or not, I agree with you. Long game, long play, long pass. Even if he's 80%, he doesn't need to play. Get him rested for Ole Miss, LSU. Yep. And outside of that, we'll see what happens for the last 4 of the season.
Yep, I hear you. Sounds like a plan to me.
And then outside of that, our next podcast, what do we got? November 11th, right?
Yes. Though there's a possibility it may have to be recorded on the 12th. That's TBD. So we might be a day late next week due to some travel from me, but it will either be 11th or 12th. So it's possible that it could be a day late, but we will definitely still be coming to you next week, one way or the other.
Deal. All right. Well, let me sign it off here. Wherever you are, wherever you may be listening, thank you for taking the time, and we will see you around, Gator Nation.